Hey, Run Tri Bike community. Welcome to the 140th episode of our Fireside Chat on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. Today, I'm going to be joined by Elizabeth Inpyn, who was one of the first contributors to Run Tri Bike when I founded the business back in 2020. So this is a real treat to have her on the show so we can catch up and share some stories and laughs. Before we bring Elizabeth on, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network wherever you get your podcasts. We have a show for everyone, from shows like this Fireside Chat that is a Q&A type conversation, to laughter on our fiery embers and our Food Fight Friday, to music and what's in your earbuds. So if you've got a topic of interest, you will find it on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. So without any further waiting, let's bring Elizabeth onto the show and talk to her about her journey in triathlon, as well as her sports nutrition and coaching business. And then we're going to talk about equity and inclusion in sport, because she has been phenomenal in sending me stories of athletes that I should be talking to. So I'm excited to get this conversation rolling. Let's bring Elizabeth forward. Hey, Elizabeth, how are you?
Hi, Jason. I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I am fantastic. Even better now that we get to chat. It's amazing. It's been 4+ years since I launched this business. And you were one of the first people to support me and say, hey, I'm happy to do whatever I can. And we got a handful of articles out of you at the launch of the company. So thank you so much for that.
It's really amazing to watch how you have evolved, how the community, the business have evolved. I knew from our first chat that I wanted to be a part of something and contribute with what it was that you were building and spreading, because it was different. It wasn't just, oh, I'm going to reshare information. It was, let's build a community where everyone has a voice. And that's what I remember specifically. And like you, one of our first conversations, I won't forget, you said, your voice as a woman, I need to hear that. Other people need to hear that. And now it seems very, I think, regular, but 4+ years ago, it's like, yes, I want to be. So thank you from the very start, valuing the opinions and education and experience of women, people, everybody, everybody.
Well, I appreciate that. So you kind of answered the question. I was going to ask you, my very first question was going to be, I know we talked in the green room. I didn't give you this one. I gave you the other questions. Was in that first conversation, we were like, okay, cool. This guy will be around for 6 months. Or were you like, this is definitely something that's going to be around for a longer time than even he imagines?
Honestly, I thought this is a movement. This is what we're going to create, but I want to make sure that I do everything I can so that it succeeds. It was like, okay, it's fragile now, so we have to get some momentum and push it through. And you've more than exceeded.
It,
It's
it's
gross.
been a crazy ride. The fact that we went from that conversation 4+ years ago to now sitting on a podcast show, right? Like, this was not a thing that I was thinking of. It was like magazine,
Yep,
newsletter, website, and a couple of maybe Facebook and Instagram. And
yep.
now we're on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and we have a Strava club and we have a podcast network. It's like, it's bananas to be where we are at. But I think that is evidence of the power of the voices that are in the community that need to be heard. There are a lot of people whose stories have been overlooked for various reasons, and we don't want to do that. So I want to also thank you for being a person who is always sending me emails like, oh, I just listened to this person on a podcast, or I just read this article about this person. You should talk to them too. And it's led to phenomenal connections all across the spectrum of sports. So thank you for that as well.
Thank you for listening. I sometimes feel like, gosh, he's going to think I'm a broken record. Hey, not, that like, knock, 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 knock. I want to, again, here's another one. But you have always just, thank you. And included that person or had discussions with. And so it feels great to be heard and valued, almost as much as it feels great to share the value that I see in other people. And like, here, take them and run.
Let's see if we can keep the good times rolling, since it's been all butterflies and rainbows.
Yeah. Oh, let's get
Pineapple Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Absolutely not.
Yes!
Hot fruit, like that goes with pie. I don't. It's a odd thing. That's a hill I will die on.
100%. All day, every day, and twice on Tuesday, which is today. Like, do not put pineapple on my pizza. So here's a variation of that question, because Stevie Smith, who you might know, with your time as being a nutritionist, she threw a monkey wrench into the conversation and told me that she's been getting white pizza with dill pickle. So is that a flavor combination you could get behind?
Okay. I love pickles. I hate white sauce of any kind. So I'm going to go with no, because the thought of white sauce pizza, but I do want to celebrate the, like, yes, if I liked white sauce, I probably, cuz it's not sweet, and I caught myself. You caught me. Sorry. No, I'm going to stick with it. No. Nope.
I love the fact that you are adamant also about the no white sauce. Like, ever since I was a kid, so my mother used to serve spaghetti, pasta with red sauce and a glass of milk. And I was like, this is an awful combination, Mom. Like, I can't do this. And so, like, fettuccine Alfredo and any of those cream sauces have always been out for me. Like 100% always out. I just can't, the combination doesn't work for my taste
I can,
buds.
as you said that, I can smell it, and I'm just thinking, gosh, mm-mm. I get, so like coconut milk, creamy, like in a good Thai dish. I guess that counts as white. That
Maybe.
is fine with me. The thick white sauces,
Yeah,
no,
I'm out.
no.
Sorry, France.
Yeah.
The bechamels are out.
Do we just
So let's get into the questions I do have listed here, because otherwise we'll probably be talking about food for the rest of the show, which, by the way, we will do at the end of the show.
Yes. Yes.
So talk to me about how you got started in endurance sports, and did that lead you to wanting to get your master's in sports nutrition, or what was the catalyst for those two things?
So endurance sports has been a part of my life. My dad was a swimmer, a really accomplished swimmer, and he had me in the pool, like on the swim team at age 4. Um, and from then on, swimming, and then as I got into high school, water polo, and then throughout college, swimming and water polo both. That was, but it's funny. I'm older, so we didn't have like a title. You weren't like an endurance athlete. You were just a swimmer and a water polo player. And, and I did all the other sports as kids, soccer, basketball. But swimming and endurance always kind of had a place in my heart. I think I have zero. I've tested fast twitch muscle fibers. I am an endurance athlete through and through. Mid-distance swimmer, 70.3 triathlon. That is my space. Half marathon is my distance. And so it's just always been who I am, what I did, and which caused a bit of an identity crisis coming out of college. Like, oh, if you're not a swimmer anymore, and a student, because both of those things I took very seriously. What are you? Which, thank gosh, then I had a boyfriend at the time that got me a bike and said, you are a triathlete. Here we go, hands on. So I got to kind of go from one to the next. But the idea of always pushing physical limits, testing your boundaries, understanding where, when you believe in yourself, when you have something that you want so passionately, how to put the work in for that, the power of consistency, the real power in keeping commitment to yourself and honoring all of those things that you say that you're going to do. So to me, endurance sports is really just keeping commitments to yourself day after day after day. And I still, to this day, just love, not so much biking. I looked at my bike the other day. We should confession. I don't think I've been on my bike outside in like 2 years.
Oh, wow.
No, I know. How the mighty have fallen. That poor bike is just holds like it's next to my surfboard is in front of it now. True Southern Californian. My surfboard comes before my bike. And then how I got into the sports nutrition, I was a high school and teacher, educator, college professor. So education has always been like in my career path. And having the science background, I had no intention of going back to school, starting my own business, you know, delving into that nutrition. It was interesting, but I wouldn't say it was a passion. And then as I really got into triathlon, this was, oh gosh, 15 plus years ago, I would listen to some of the discussions that athletes were having, oh, whether they were eating, weren't eating, what products. And this, I wish we could go back, just have a little time capsule to show how sports nutrition has evolved, the products
Mhm.
themselves.
Yep.
On the pool deck when I swam at UC Santa Barbara, we had power bars, not the good power bars you have now, the like brownie flavored or oatmeal raisin flavored original gold packaging power bars. That was it. Like,
Like
and I think
chewing
they
dust.
probably put, yeah, Gatorade in our water bottles. So I understood food from just and like an athlete, like you need food perspective. And then the scientist in me kind of kicked in. But I would listen to people in the locker room after practice, or listen to people, what about this product? Oh, I think this one's supposed to help you do that. And from a basic science level, I thought, well, I don't really think that's right. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. And so because I will eternally forever go to school in some format. I love school, always have a book in my hand. I thought, well, I bet I could learn, do this, help the people that I love, help myself. I was at that point hyper competitive. And the two just kind of naturally flowed. And it just was like, oh, and as I learned more about my body, my performance, so self-serving in a way at the start, and then grew into something so much more.
But isn't that what like owning your own business and becoming an expert in something really requires, is doing something for yourself, right? Like we talked about this company at the start of the show, and I looked around the landscape and I was like, there's no stories about people like me. There's no stories about black athletes. There's no stories about physically challenged athletes. There's not enough stories about female athletes. There's not enough stories about queer athletes. Like there's just not there. And I want to hear these stories. And so I started a company. And so it is somewhat self-serving in that scenario. And so for you, it's no different, right? Like I want to figure out how nutrition works better, best, and then take that and share that knowledge with other people. And I do want to get into the nutrition side of it all a little bit more now, because today with influencers and hacking and I always use this like ridiculous example, 2 squeezes of lemon juice on 4 grains of rice and you'll be running a 4-minute mile before you know it. Like all of these non-scientific based notions and hacks that are out there, like how do you, as a person who has studied this, who is a lifelong learner, combat the amount of information that is constantly being pushed by people who are not qualified to push this information?
I shut my phone off and I go for a walk on the beach. Like, some days. So I think I have evolved into it. Used to, I was a fighter. If I heard someone say something, and I have been this way kind of my whole life, like that is not a fact, that is wrong, this is this. And the countless battles I fought that were not mine to fight, the energy wasted arguing with people that either already knew their opinion wasn't going to change regardless, or they thought they had all of the facts, or or they just like to argue, period. I just look back like, gosh, you would have been such a happier person if you just could have let it go. And now I really do. I think I almost enjoy the two squeezes of lemon juice, 4 grains of because I think those are so easy to kind of put up, like hold up a mirror to someone and say, no, does that really look right? What I think are the dangerous ones, and this is a big part of social media, are the voices that sound like they are using science, or they have some other kind of background, educated background, and now they have wide influence, and they are selling, many of them selling messages of health and hope, of a product or a hack, or they're taking the nutrition, the dangerous part. They take some piece of nutrition and twist it and turn it in a very self-serving manner. And that's where it's hard, because and I there are a lot of podcasts that I like, but it's, I heard this on Huberman, and what about this, and I heard it on this, and Chris Willicks has this, and that's where it gets very hard, because they not only idolize the person telling the information, but because that person carries weight, then they assume that information is also very valid. And so that's where, like Lane Norton, I love him. He will do a 10-page, 12-minute diatribe on this is why this doesn't work. And so a lot of times I funnel people his way. He's doing a better job of, like what he said. So that's, I think, kind of how I balance those two now.
Yes, I was going to ask you that question. The question I was going to ask you is about that scenario in which, are you finding that athletes are coming to you and you're almost having to negotiate with them more today than you had to, let's say, 5 or 10 years ago, because you have to uneducate before you can re-educate?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I imagine this is what physicians must feel like. If I was putting on someone else's hat, people see things on podcasts or influencers saying the pharmaceutical companies pushing different drugs for things, and them going to their physician saying, I need this, I want this, I think I have that, Google said that. It is very much so. If I had $1 for every time someone came to me and said, I need your help, and this is how you're going to fix my problem. And I thought, well, why do you need my help? You
Right.
know what so yes, it is very, but I think I am especially gifted in that whilst probably prideful in some things, I don't mind. I know what I know. And so I don't mind someone questioning me. It doesn't insult me. It doesn't rile me. So I think I have the patience to sit with someone and talk through what, and a lot of times they believe things because they need to. They
Hmm.
need that solution. And so when you kind of dig a little deeper, one of my favorite phrases or questions is, tell me more.
Yes.
When someone is coming to me saying, oh, keto this, or I'm going to use ketones, blah, 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 blah. And I say, tell me more about that. Tell me more about this. And then you dig down a few layers, then they just need help, or they just need an answer. And so when you can kind of unarm them with the misinformation, then they're more apt to learn and take the new information up.
Yeah, I got to imagine that social media and all these platforms have amplified this to a level that you probably couldn't even have imagined years ago. Like, I know for me, um, I've written about this, I've talked about this numerous times. I've had disordered eating issues because in when I was racing Ironman, the idea that thinner was faster was something that was prevalent, and it probably still is today. I just maybe I've shut my brain off to it, but I would eat next to nothing all day long, right? And then binge eat at the end of the night. Like, I would find myself in the pantry, a bag full of powdered donuts, like inhaling them because I'm now hungry, right? I just rode my bike 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever it is, and I'm starving, and I would find myself in the pantry, and I thought it was okay to do this, right? Just, oh, I'm recovering, I need calories. Realize But reality is, no, that's not the case. It's a disordered eating. If I had been eating, I would have been recovering properly and I wouldn't have had this issue. So, um, like how much blame, I don't know if that's the right word, do we put on social media in being this amplification device when we could also, as nutritionists and people who believe in nutritionists, say, go talk to Elizabeth and point that athlete in the right direction and amplify that? Like, is it a double-edged sword that you're dealing with today when it comes to this kind of stuff?
Yes, I think the scary thing about social media, and not my not my phrase, but that people present always just the best of things, what they want you to see.
Yep.
I was guilty of this back in the day, especially when I had disordered eating. Um, so the information that they're getting, one, isn't factual, scientifically based. It's also not reality based.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're constantly given these messages, it doesn't matter if you send someone to me that, if the loudest voice in their head is the one that they heard on social media, you or I, that's not like, there has to be space, there has to be silence, there has to be trust, and earning all of those things takes time, takes the right person. I am certainly not the right person for everyone, just like there isn't the right one coach for every person. And so I think we see now there are people that share their stories. You and I have both been very vocal about ours, but we look naturally as humans for what we want to either like prove our point, or to make us feel good, or to like lack accountability. Oh, that person, we find things that agree with our point of view, or our dysfunction a lot
Yeah.
of the time. I know, and again, years passed, but I had to go unfollow a lot of people that I was following because they fed my dysfunction,
Mm-hmm.
literally and figuratively, or
Yeah.
unfed, you know? And so it's social media is, as much as I would love to say it's a tool, it's also dangerous, and yes, a very much a double-edged sword.
Lori has said to me numerous couple of things that I think stand out and are pertinent to this conversation. One is the world became dangerous when we all became famous. It's a lyric in a song, and it's the reality right now. All of a sudden, I'm getting the dopamine hit because I put up a post about ABC and somebody's liking it, and that's feeding this. And now all of a sudden, I'm famous, and now disinformation about what you should be eating and drinking and how you should be training and everything else just escalates. The other thing she says, which is counter to that, is people will hear you when they're ready to listen. And I think like that is really pertinent when it comes to this kind of stuff in these sports, because right or wrong, most publications in our space are covering the podium winners, and they're talking to the people who are investing crazy amounts of time to cross the finish lines first. We do the opposite and we talk to the person who finishes last. And that person is just as valuable. Um, but that person is also going to be dealing with some of these issues that others are dealing with, but they may not make that change until they're ready to listen as well. And so I wonder, like, how do you navigate this complicated path, right? Because distrust is going to be there because I've listened to ABC podcaster for so long and they've told me so much, but I know I need help. So I got pointed and I'm coming to talk to you. Like, what does that trust like path look like? How do you get that trust to get them to say, you know what, that what I was listening to in that podcast doesn't make any more sense?
I think uh, transparency is pretty, and vulnerability is pretty um, endearing and heartwarming, and it really kind of de-escalates any like tension that someone might have. Um, I think because as wonderful as food is, it has, at least, gosh, from age probably 25 on, it was very much a battleground space. And I think as women in particular, and this is one specifically I can say for white women, the like thinner you are, the better as an athlete, in the endurance world, the thinner, leaner you are, the better. And so having all of these messages filtering in, and then with the prevalence of social media and seeing it, having access to it at all times, when you understand what someone is going through, and the struggle might be different if someone is overweight and having problems with food, or someone is underweight and having problems with food, we still share a common enemy. And it shouldn't be, but that's a lot of times what it is. And so I think by talking about and being very open, oh, I know what this feels like, oh, I experienced this. And then as I start to get to know athletes, I'm like, oh, it's like the parent that, used to be wild and sneak out, and then their kid does the same thing, and they're like, oh, I tried that. You have to figure out something new. I've done that. So I know all of the like tricks and workarounds, and so I can call people out. And I have to believe that people see in me, it always comes from a place of love and genuine concern and empathy. I don't want people to have to struggle and hurt. I don't want people injured like I was. I don't want people in just constant turmoil around food. I don't want people to battle disordered eating for a decade. So it's very much not just a profession, it is just a passion.
Yeah.
And I think that transfers.
I couldn't agree more. We're talking about, and my brain is going 100 miles an hour with all the different questions I want to ask you. And one of the ones I've landed on is, earlier today, I listened to Borderlands Trail Running podcast with Josh Rosenthal, and he interviewed Michael Mazzara, and they were talking about sport, specifically trail running, and where it's going and where it's come from and things like that. And so, as an athlete who's been in this sport, from swimming to water polo to half Ironman to half marathons and all of that stuff that you've done, where do you see our sports going? What is something that is happening which isn't getting much attention, but it should be, do you think?
Ooh, ooh. One thing that I love to see, and a good friend of mine, Tina Muir, um, she's really pushed for this, is kind of the environmental aspect and impact of the sport that we do. And I see in her, I see in the work that she's doing, but I also see it now in the community of this awareness and kind of a joining of people to preserve the lands that we are swimming, biking, and running on, to honor those lands, to discuss reusable, renewable resources, energies. So I think that's something that I like to see in this. I think long gone are the days that we all just show up to races and don't have any consideration of the impact that we have on the community, on a day, on a people. So I love to see that. I love to see, I think maybe I talk badly about social media, but I think it's made it more accessible to
Yeah.
all different kinds of people. I think it's wonderful. I think the ageism we've kind of removed, and it we are celebrating young athletes as much as we are older masters athletes. I think in and yours is better, is second to none, the voices of the people that are otherwise ignored, their stories, their plight, their beliefs, the things that they fight with, those things are coming to the forefront. And I hope, I still think triathlon in general is a bit kind of pay to play. uh, we see less and less local races.
Mhm.
Pick on any big industry names, but I think we all know who those are.
Yep.
and, less of the community feel to them, which is a shame because so that in the other respect, because there are more people doing, I think the bigger names are kind of swallowing up some of those smaller races and taking away that uh, kind of small town beauty and magic where the guy from around the corner can jump in with a BMX bike. I think that's like, Jesse Thomas's story for his first
Yep.
triathlon, and just hop in and do their best and participate and have a good time and walk away with a medal. So I hope that we still get to have some of those moments and that we still get to create those communities.
As a business, it's got to be hard if you're in the climate change business. So if you're a VinFast, or if you're,
Mhm.
if you make an EV, right? So VinFast sponsors DC Ironman events. It's well known. And I remember when they made that announcement, I was on social media. I don't remember what platform, and it was like all this outrage about VinFast and how can an EV company, but then you're going to ask people to get in planes and fly to Kona or fly to Nice, France, and if you're a business, like, how are you supposed to approach this then, right? Like, I'd love to be a part of the solution, but if I'm going to get tarred and feathered while I'm trying to be part of the solution, why would I try to be part of the solution? And so
Absolutely.
I wonder if what you said there is what we might see, where we get more the involvement, right? So I don't have to get in a plane and fly to Kona or fly to Nice, France for a championship. I live in SoCal as well. I can get in my car and drive to Phoenix for an event. I can get in my EV and drive to Phoenix for an event, or I can drive to San Diego for an event. Like, do you think that there might be an appetite? Athletes are like, Kona is really cool. I would love to be a part of that. But you know what? I'm also going to care about the environment, and I'm just going to drive my car to San Diego, where triathlon, is a big event and a big sport there, and just go hang out in San Diego and do it there. Like, can we see that? Is that something that might happen?
I hope so. I really do. And I think people are a bit more aware of it now because we're starting to have discussions. But I also think we have to remove some of the pride, if you will, of thinking only Kona is the only way that I will prove that I am this valid world class. And I get it; it's sport. There has to be a championship. Like there just has to be. And because it's always been in Kona, I think we saw kind of how Nice went, and there's mixed emotions about that. But so many athletes, oh, I have to do this race, I have to do that race. Their identity is so caught up in that. If you asked them to do a smaller town race, which is why a lot of athletes won't do races that aren't Ironman branded. I want to say I'm an Iron. It's the same distance, like it's like mind-boggling. So I think it's not just having those events, it's changing the mindset around those events. And then two, making them accessible. I think it's so easy to shine a light on, oh, and yes, there are 5,000 plus people going to Kona, but how many people want to do triathlon that don't have the money and they're not even thinking Kona? Let's give local people opportunities,
Yeah.
people that don't have the money to buy the expensive bikes, to pay thousands of dollars for race entry, thousands of dollars to travel to a certain place. If we're going to make these things accessible to everybody, let's actually do that. And
Right.
one of the ways we can do that is having these smaller races that don't have a huge environmental impact, that are all inclusive, that do celebrate communities.
Yeah, the entry fees are exorbitant, and if you're getting into race directing, I want you to make a living. I get it, right?
Right.
I want you to make a living. As an entrepreneur, I support your entrepreneurial spirit. I want you people to make a living as race directors. I mean, for crying out loud, I didn't know we would have a podcast network 4 years after we started. We might be hosting events in 4 years from now. Who knows?
Yeah. What?
Um, but I do wonder, right, if there was an opportunity to build local community events where you hosted them in and around your area, and maybe they don't fall under the perfect number of 140.6. Maybe it's 122.3 because that's what you have available to you,
Yeah.
right? or you don't run a 50K, you run a 53K because that's just where the finish line happened to be in the start line, right? Like if we can normalize that, then I could see people like jumping at the opportunity to be like, I ran this wacky 53K, like and having fun with it.
Yes, yes. And it's on Strava because everybody needs to put something on Strava. And it's okay that it's a little, like you said, a little short, a little long, a little like, can we just be okay with doing the sport itself, doing an event of sorts, which is kind of why I like now we see like high rocks and we've in years past we've seen
Right.
um gosh, what are they? Where like Spartan races and those kinds of things, like
Parting events.
where
Yep. Yep.
there are other opportunities to prove your athleticism than just a
Hmm.
standard 5K, 10K marathon, uh,
Right.
whatever distance. It's
A lot of this stuff is really funny if you think about it, right? Like it feels important at the time, but I interviewed an athlete 2 or 3 months ago, and we were talking about this stuff, and I was like, I'm maybe there's somebody out there who's going to do it, but I seriously doubt anybody's got their ultra sign up on their tombstone. And so, like, we're gonna get hung up on this thing today, right? About the event being exactly X or Y, when in the grand scheme of things, big picture, it really almost just doesn't matter. Go have fun, go do their limits, then tell the stories after.
yeah.
Really, that's where it's at, 140.6, that or anything of that nature. I want
No,
to ask you a
and what about
go ahead.
the months? Sorry, I just like the months of training that you did leading up to that, who you became as a person. Can we start talking about those things? And you do a great job of this, of the people that are saying like, yeah, my lifestyle was this and this. I what you would have looked at me and never known I
Mhm.
wouldn't have known or called myself an athlete. That to me is way more important, way more memorable and celebratory than whatever distance, medal, finish line, finish time. And I get it. I understand that we need to set goals
Right.
and have something to strive for. But can that, you know, that be the like cherry on the top of the sundae?
Right.
And then the sundae itself is all of the things leading up to it.
One of my favorite segments or themes that we have on our platform is enjoying the journey. We ask people, look, I would love to interview you for the next 6 to 8 months, once a month, as you make your way towards this finish line, starting line slash finish line. We don't know how it's going to turn out. Like we have zero clue, right? They may get injured during the process. They may DNF. They may, well, who knows? And that's why I love it,
Mhm.
because it is a story that we have no clue what the ending is going to be. And it's being told over 6, 8, 10 months. Um, Starting in January, I'll be writing my own Enjoying the Journey series, as I look to get back to the 100-mile distance in October. And so, that's 10 months of telling that story of the training and the eating and the sleeping and the recovery and the skipping a workout and all of that stuff. Because what we have seen in that series is the people changing as they've gone through. Ohm just put up one about Angelisa, whose goal was to race Javelina's first 100-miler. She got to mile 97 and DNF'd, and she did not, I'm sure she cared, but she was elated to have finished 97 miles. If we went back to her on day one and said, if you got to mile 97, tell us how you would feel, she would have not told us that she was elated to have gotten there, right?
Okay, I want to be her. That is the ultimate, like, pivotal mountaintop moment of when you can accept the day for what it was and be proud of the accomplishment. Because
Yep.
I mean, really, if someone told me I ran 97 miles, I feel like you're darn right I did. Like that would be just such an incredible human feat. I really admire that uh, perspective.
100%. We're running low on time here, but I
Oh,
do want to ask this one question because, like I said in the beginning, you're always sending me athletes and race directors and coaches to talk to, and equity and inclusion in sports. Like, why is it important to you? Like, why is it that you're the one or a person sending me people to interview because you're like, this story is phenomenal, and you're not sending me the Jane Smiths of the world. You're sending me the person who doesn't get seen in the world.
yeah.
And especially at endurance sports, like, why is it so important to you that that person's story be shared somewhere?
I'm sure my therapist could tell you a good there's I think there's probably a very deep, good reason for that, which we'll save that for another chat. So, from the very, I think, beginning, I guess it always goes back to childhood. I've never liked bullies. I have always been the person and that just stood up, and I don't mean this in like a yay me way. I just don't care for it. I don't care for people being ignored. I don't care for people being bullied. And when I started playing water polo in high school, we didn't have a girls team. I think I played with the boys, and we had to fight, and we had to, deal with people treating us differently and people making fun of us and guys on different teams saying really ridiculous things. And so I think I've always loved a struggle and felt like I've always been ready for a fight, if you will.
I like it. Me too.
And and if it's not mine, if I can help in someone else's, I want to be a part of that, which gets me in trouble on occasion. And so as I have grown and learned and listened and seen people, I realize I am in such a place of privilege as a white woman, as what used to be an accomplished athlete. Uh, I had all of those things that people would listen to, would very easily promote, would very easily get behind. And, uh, kind of like I think British people, they just sound smarter. Their accent gives them that credit. I think the color of my skin and the way that I carry myself gives me access to places that other people don't have. And that frustrates me to no end. It doesn't sit well. I don't sleep well. And so if I can lift other people up, if I can encourage, because my experience, like, we are never, now I'm solving world peace. We are never going to come together as a people on this planet if we cannot celebrate and understand and learn from and hear from and honor other people's experiences and stories
Hmm.
and take action to change things. That's the other part. It's not just hearing them, which is why I
Right.
really love sending you things, because I know you're going to do something about it. uh, Taking the action to correct those instances, to make sport equally accessible to all different groups of people, to share stories, to make sure that we are listening to voices of people and their experiences, and actually like not putting our biases and prejudices on top of those. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to keep doing it until people have a place and a voice and everybody feels heard and seen.
That's it. I mean, I've always been that same type of person, which is why we get along. Like, I'm going to stand in front of you and protect you. I'm gonna have an argument with somebody if I feel you're being wronged. I just, it's who I am. It's always been a part of my blood, and that's just, you know. And now I get to do it, for a living with this company and share the stories and get people the attention and notoriety that they have earned by putting in the work to do these really hard things, because these things are really, really hard.
Yes. And you and I, before we started, we were talking. We don't want to be the people to tell other people's stories. It's not right. We're not going to tell them correctly. It's not like,
Right.
give people the opportunities to take leadership positions, tell their stories, make change, be influencing, have that, like, let their voices be heard. Like,
Yeah.
let's make things happen.
It's as simple as that. It really is. So before we jump
Yeah.
into our rapid fire food questions, if somebody has an interest in bringing you on as a coach slash nutritionist, where can they go to find more information?
We talked about social media. Instagram is probably which is just my last name, Inpyn, Inpyn, uh, website, inpyn.com.
Perfect. We'll make sure that's in the show notes as well. So are you now ready for our rapid fire food questions?
So ready. I love rapid fire.
By the way, yeah, so it's a misnomer. We say rapid fire, but take your time, think about it, crack jokes like it's like it's not as serious. We're not winning a Pulitzer Prize for this bout of journalism
Can't
here.
do it halfway, man. You know me. Like, this is, I am in this. I am in this.
Oreos. Are you a fan of Oreos? And if so, original Oreos, double stuffed Oreos, thin Oreo thins, or Oreo cakesters? Which one are you going for?
I think you can tell that I'm not particularly an Oreo person, that I don't even know what Oreo cakes are.
Nobody does. They've done a terrible job of marketing.
Uh,
Oreo, contact me. We'll help you out.
an Oreo thin, I've seen those. I think that's just like a slap in the face with a cookie. I don't know. I wouldn't bother. If I was going to eat an Oreo, it would be those ones they bring out at Christmas that are covered in white chocolate.
Yeah, the white fudge. They're out there now. Yes.
Yeah, that would be my Oreo of choice.
There is an ongoing conversation between Santino Williams, Josh Cronin, and myself, amongst others, on threads about Oreos and the varieties that we have today to pick from. And it's overwhelming. Like, I just give me the plain Oreo, man, and maybe one other flavor. I don't need 97 different
Yeah,
options.
yeah, agreed. Agreed.
Licorice, red or black?
Ooh, my Dutch people will hate me for this, but red. Black licorice is, it's odd. It's just odd.
Peeps. Are Peeps a real candy, or are they just dust covered in glitter?
Childhood Elizabeth loved Peeps, so I'm just like, my mother is going to watch this, so I have to be honest. I love Peeps. Love them. Uh, a funny Elizabeth story: in college, this is freshman year in college, and my good friend Jackie can confirm. We were waiting in like a long line at the grocery store, and she dared me because I never turned down dares, for better or for worse. And she said, "I dare you to finish 4 packs of Peeps before we check." Finished all 4, got outside the store, and was way too much sugar, but I did it. I took that bet. So yes, I knew like my nutrition hat is off.
Yeah, of course. Out.
This is just Elizabeth the person.
Yes.
I think they are delightful and ridiculous at the
Have
same
you heard of peep jousting?
Oh my gosh, no. What on earth?
So we were told that one of the best ways to enjoy peeps is to have them peep joust, and you put toothpicks in their beaks, you put them in the microwave, and they expand right with the heat, and so they're hitting their toothpicks against each other like they're jousting, and then obviously they're warm and you eat it from there. But it's not something I'm going to try. But please report back on whether or not.
Oh, come Easter, man. I am going to do that. Absolutely going to try that.
We've also been told that the best way to eat a peep is to have it be stale. Now, my response to that is, you want me to take something bad, make it worse, and
No,
somehow it's going to be better? Hmm.
no, no.
Candy corn. Is candy corn a real candy, or is it just earwax covered in sugar?
Who's describing it like that? It's a lovely little candy. Oh my gosh. It's like a Thanksgiving. Like, what? Do they spit on Thanksgiving also? I mean, for goodness sakes.
Circus peanuts. Are those a real candy, or are those just the Amazon package styrofoam spray painted orange?
They still make those?
Yes, they do.
You
Yes.
can tell I'm not a candy person. Yes, that is a flashback to childhood. Okay.
Let's go back to childhood when you went to grandma's house. She had a candy dish. Did you take the caramel? Did you take the mint? Did you take the butterscotch or did you take the strawberry filled strawberry one?
I gosh bless my grandmother. She didn't have a candy dish. She had
Oh,
cookies and cake, pies. At the holidays though, there always was a dish of Hershey's Kisses, and I was notorious, and I would still to this day like I love some Hershey Kisses. So of your choices, none of those. My grandparents had Hershey's Kisses, and I cleaned them out.
how do you eat the Hershey Kiss? Are you popping it in like an aspirin or are you nibbling on it?
Nibble, kind of a weird. They're like this big. No, it's like it's a yeah, I'm maybe if it's in a cookie, where they put one of those on top of
Yeah,
my
on the top.
cookie, I might bite into it, but no, otherwise I'm just sucking on the candy and enjoying the chocolatey goodness.
Chocolate chip cookie or oatmeal raisin cookie?
My mother's chocolate chip cookies. I don't not store bought, not any my mother's.
Creamy or crunchy peanut butter?
Any gosh, anything. Any nut butter. I have 5 different kinds in my refrigerator right now.
Do
Any.
do you eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?
Love them.
How
Yes.
do you make them? And I'm gonna give you the options. Do you put peanut butter on one side and jelly on the other side and then slap it together? Do you put them both on the same side and then just fold over?
Chaos, utter chaos. Lay down the one slice of bread. Get the peanut butter exactly on all touching all edges, perfectly evenly covered. Okay, I'm a scientist, sir. Then the jelly goes on that same on top of the peanut butter, evenly spread. It's like a running family joke that, nobody takes the like accuracy and time to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich like I do. Perfectly met, and then the other piece of bread goes on top.
Now, when you do you cut it? And if you do cut it, do you make 2 rectangles? Do you make 2 triangles? Do you make 4 squares or 4 triangles?
If I have to shove it in a bento box for a long ride, it's 4 little squares.
Yes, but you haven't ridden a bike in 2 years, so that's
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Which that's gosh, I have to get on or sell that bike. If anyone wants to buy it, hit me up. Like in half, right down the middle. So what does that make? 2
2
rectangles.
rectangles.
Yeah.
Red velvet cake. Is red velvet a real flavor or is it just chocolate cake dressed up to go to the prom?
Well, I love the idea of getting dressed up to go to a prom. I'm gonna pick that. I don't even know if I agree, but it sounds really fun and festive and fancy. Also, I would not eat red velvet, like regular chocolate cake. But no, I like it. It's dressed up. It's fancy.
What's your favorite type of cake or flavor, I guess?
My mom, my mom's chocolate cake that she makes. It's like a recipe from when we lived in Alabama years ago. It is that she makes from scratch. It is
Oh.
delicious. I get it every year on my birthday.
Oh, that's awesome. Are you a pie person? Do you like pie?
Apple pie, if I make it or my mother makes it.
Does your mom have a bakery?
No, she's just a phenomenal baker. She used to bake goods and send them to all of my friends, all the swim team in college. All of the neighborhood asks my mom to bake things. She's wildly talented.
Mom, slap an invoice on those things when you ship them out next time. Favorite flavor of ice cream is
Vanilla with chocolate
plain
sprinkles.
with chocolate sprinkles. Are you a cone or a cup person?
The like sugary waffle cone if they have it. But if they're making it there, not if it's some kind of packaged thing. Like
Yeah,
I'm not big on wasting. Like if it's not going to be good, I'm not going to waste my time eating
I
it.
like it. So in the movie Mars, Matt Damon goes to Mars
Mhm.
and he grows potatoes, and that's all he eats basically for the rest of his life.
Mhm.
You are about to embark on this voyage with Matt Damon. What is the meal what are you going to eat as your last meal before you get into that rocket ship and only eat potatoes for the rest of your life?
This is a very hard question.
Yeah, it is.
Oh no.
You want to laugh?
Yes.
My favorite answer to this question has been from Jennifer Comfort. The top two answers have been from Jennifer Comfort. Her first response to me was wheat thins, and her second response to me was unfrosted animal crackers. And I cannot stop laughing at the idea of chewing cardboard as the last meal I'm going to have before I only eat potatoes.
See, this is how my mind is so different from hers. I'm like, well, my first course
Exactly.
and
Yes.
then my soup course. Like, I don't even usually have a soup course, but I'm gonna put that in there. I'm gonna throw like a salad and then, an appetizer or
Yep.
two. Gosh, last
That last meal is going to last like 7 hours. If
yeah,
only I'm going to eat
yeah. I'm not
potatoes.
gonna have to eat until I get to Mars because I have eaten everything. Like, she's good. She's satisfied. Oh, geez. Oh, that's so I'm teetering back between, like, the best burger, like, loaded up with bacon and avocado and caramelized onions and, a good brioche bun and fries,
Oh,
um, or, like, a really good steak dinner. Oh gosh. Apparently, here's what we've learned. Elizabeth doesn't wanna go to Mars.
make the burger the appetizer and make the steak the main course.
Yeah, yes. Oh gosh.
I, I
That was
just
it's too hard. It's too
I'm
hard.
su- I'm surprised you didn't go with something from your mother,
I
being
wa
that.
I my first answer was that, and I thought that I can't. So for my mother, she makes, like, the best meatballs. Yeah, it would have been something off of of her plate, but I thought I should bear
No, my
choose to
goodness.
go.
Like I've been asked the same question, and then my response immediately and always has been, my mother has since passed, but I also eat plant based. But if this was the last meal, I would give it up for this last meal, and it would be arroz con gandules and chuletas, which is rice and beans and fried pork chop, because my mother made that the best thing I've ever eaten, hands down, like hands down. And maybe there's a little bit of nostalgia
Oh,
involved in that flavor, but that would be the last meal I had before I blasted off into outer space with Matt Damon.
which I think, to bring full circle in our nutrition discussion, these are the kinds of things that we should be including in our diet. These are the kinds of discussions we should be having. Family meals,
Yeah.
meals that are important to our community, to our religion, to our culture, to our, like, I'm glad that you understand the power of a
Oh,
meal that a loved one made or
yes.
that you had at a pivotal time in your life.
Yes.
To me, I think that is what healthy living, nutrition, thriving as athletes, as humans, I think that's really what
Yeah.
it's all about.
I mean, I love food, and I've always said that um there will always be space at the table because we'll just build a bigger table. And that's the memory that you'll have is of eating that meal with that person. And it may taste like crap in all honesty, but the fact that you're with the other person is going to make it taste better. The memory is going to live forever. And that's the kind of stuff that we should be hanging our hat on, and not, something that's been manufactured, that doesn't have, a connection to us as a person at all. Like I'm not into that either. Brownies. This is the last question. Tray of brownies is sitting on the counter. Did your mom make brownies too?
Yes.
Okay, so mom's brownies are sitting on the counter. They've been able to cool off a little bit. Is Elizabeth going to the corner
Mhm.
and getting the edge, or is she going to the middle for the ooey gooey?
She is taking a big enough piece that she gets mostly corners and a little bit of goo from the middle. But yes, I will fight for that corner crunch piece. And my mom makes it just right that it can be crunchy around the edges and perfectly, like, gooey in the middle.
Is that also the same for you when it comes to lasagna? Are you the kind of person who goes to the corner of the tray of lasagna to get that like little burnt edge crunchy side?
Oh gosh, that's the yes.
Right? That's where it all
Probably
happens.
why this meatloaf, I like the edge of the
Yes.
And my dad and I are the two, like my mom and brother, gosh bless them, they're, the peacekeepers. They're like, we'll take whatever. And my dad and I are like, give me the end you need. Like we're fighting for those two pieces on the end.
Yes.
Which is why I have not made them. But have you ever done the brownies where they put the thing in so every square gets an edge? It's like
No.
it's like a mold that you put it in that basically makes the squares like each individual one so they all have brown
So
edge.
we have this rapid fire, which is not rapid fire, food conversation has gotten enough attention that people now send us messages about this stuff. And so Becky Croft, who's Coach Croft on Instagram, sent me a message the other day of a picture of brownies being made in a cupcake tin so that everybody, which is to your point, everybody's getting an edge because it's in a cupcake tin. And I was like, that's genius. That is something I have to now do.
Oh yeah. The cupcake tin I think is one of the most underrated cooking, is it a utensil, a utility device,
Apparatus.
apparatus. You can make so many things in those cupcake tins that are not cupcakes.
100%. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being on our show. And thank you for being a supporter of the Run Try Bike platform from basically day one. Your encouragement, your enthusiasm, and your willingness to help has really gotten us to where we are, getting ready to start year 5. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, I so believe in the work that you're doing, and it's hard, I know, and it's like it has been a labor of love. I have watched you build this and work at it, and we have had discussions, back in the early days of the magazine, how should it look, this, that.
Yeah,
I commend the work that you're doing. I'm excited about what's ahead, and I just thank you for always letting me be a part and letting me share and listening.
appreciate it. For those of you who are still with us, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on the Run Try Bike Instagram channel and all of our other channels, the second episode of Enduring Minds will be on. It's a men's mental health show. Evan Birch and myself will be interviewing Om Gandhi, who is the third co-host in our co-host trio. So check us out there. Otherwise, it'll be on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube shortly thereafter. Elizabeth, have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jason.